everyone. In this video I'm going to show you all how to combine the arm into the body, and then after that we're going to combine the hand to the arm or wrist or what have you. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start by zooming directly in on the body. By tapping F, I select the body and just tap F to zoom in on it. And now I'm going to turn on symmetry. So if I hold Control, Shift, and right click, I'll go to symmetry. By default, it should be on X-axis, object. You'll see these two will be checked. And then just go to the symmetry box and just release. The other way to do this is right up here. And on this will be object X. So this is the symmetry right here. Now I'm going to hold right click, go to vertex, and what I'm going to do is I basically have already preset this in the beginning, and I'm going to snap these vertices as needed, holding V. So I'm using the move tool, holding V to snap to vertices. The button's right here for it, and I'm going to snap this one here. 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 This one will go here. And just follow this all the way around. Now I'm going to switch to my face mode. And if you just do it this way, if you select on the body, hold Shift and press I, it'll isolate the body, and you'll see that you have these two sockets where the arms would be. I'm going to go to face mode, just select those faces, should select evenly on both sides, and just press delete. Okay, so now I've got the body set up. I'm basically just going to take this arm, I'll take this arm as well, whilst also holding Shift, I'm going to select the body, and now I'm going to do combine or mesh combine. Alright, now I'm going to switch to my vertex mode, and I'm just simply going to highlight all of these verts. I'm going to hold Shift, I'm going to hold right click, I'm going to go to merge vertices and merge vertices. And if depending on the scale of your object and scene, this may or may not work all in one click. If you notice anything weird happen, you might have to do each two individually at a time. Alright, so now we need to check to make sure that it did in fact merge. So I'm going to select on one, just make sure, and this is just to make sure that they did merge. Now you'll notice one thing over here is that it didn't merge on this side. So let's try turning symmetry off, and we'll just do it to this side. Okay, and now I may have to just, like I said, may have to do these sort of as needed, but I believe that this is all good to go now. But this is how you check. Just click once though, don't do click and drag, because you could, if they are merged, it should just off one click go like this. But you may trick yourself if you run a click and drag if it isn't merged, because then two of the vertices will be selected. You'll be shifting them around, and you won't be able to tell the difference. So, should be fine on both sides, but it's always best to double check. And another way you can check this, as you could remember from our 3D Modeling 1 course, is that if you tap 3 on the keyboard, you'll notice any weird, strange pinching that could possibly be happening, and that would simply be from the vertices not being merged. But these are all cleanly merged, no issues here, and we're basically ready to continue. So now that I have these merged, I'm going to just soften edges just so you can kind of see a little bit better, right? Now that I have these merged, what I'm going to do is I've got the hand here, right, and I've got the elbow here. And you're going to see something right away. One of the things you'll notice is that the wrist does not have the same topology lining up as the body or the arm. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to hold right click, and I'm going to go to just smooth. And you notice now all of a sudden I have much more topology to work with, and it still might not be exactly enough. However, it will certainly help. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this hand and I'm going to delete the last face on it. Yeah. Also, same thing with this one. Even if you have symmetry on, unless these objects are combined, it won't work. So I'm just going to delete that last one. Okay. And I'm also going to take one last look just to see. It should be pretty good. And I'm going to modify center pivot just on this just for the moment, just because I want to take a look at it. Okay, that should work fine. Alright. So what I'm going to do next is I'm basically going to go back to my symmetry. And if it highlights blue, then you'll know it's symmetrical on the opposite side. Now I definitely will I'll more than likely probably have to add in even more geometry to this. However, I won't know just yet. Okay. So you'll see that based on my geometry, I'm pretty much, at the moment, I'm kind of skipping every other one. Almost. Here. So now that I've done this, I know exactly where I need to add some edge loops. So I'm going to select my multi-cut tool. I'm going to actually make sure my object is selected, this body. I'm going to select my multi-cut tool, and holding control, I'm simply going to cut in edge loops where needed. So that this one is actually going to cut across the entire body. So just to sort of be aware where your geometry is going, which is good because I kind of need a little bit extra geometry in the chest area. And I'll need an extra one right here. I'll need an extra one right here. I'll need an extra one right here. Just holding control and clicking. And that, I believe, should do it. So now I'm going to start to snap all of these into place. V. Just to give me an idea. And now I've got some extra geometry that was in places needed. And I'm going to even probably add a little bit more geometry here in the body here shortly. So now I'm going to combine both of these hand objects and the body, so just shift select each one. Also, it's always a good idea to do an edit delete all by type history. And now hopefully this will do both at the same time, but as we saw before, it didn't. Yeah, it should have worked, but now let's check this side. And it did work on this side this time, but it might not. So I'm going to tap 3 on my keyboard. Oh wait, I may have not combined the right ones or merged the correct ones. Yeah, so if you'll notice, they're not merged. However, when I do this, I select this entire edge loop, and I have it in 3 mode just so you can see. You're going to notice these shift just very subtly. Merge vertices, and you'll see them just shift just a little bit. And you'll notice some pinching in here. And what that pinching is telling us is that this vertex and this vertex on this wrist part are not merged. And you'll see them sort of pinching towards it. And now let's just do that. Perfect. And now that pinching goes away. And now again, I need to make sure that even though I had symmetry on, it didn't merge on both sides. So I'm going to just turn the symmetry off for a moment. I'm going to just highlight that entire wrist section and merge vertices and merge vertices. And see, now I have a nice clean topology running towards my hand. One last thing I would like to do, I'm going to add a little bit more geometry here in the body. Just in a few places. And I'm just holding Control and Shift. And maybe I guess one more there. And now that I've got that all set and complete, eventually I'll probably add a few more edge loops going. Eventually I will definitely be adding edge loops going up and down in these sections. But for the time being, I'm going to leave it just like this. So there is my character's body up to this point. And again, like we did with the hands, with the sculpting tool, by adding that extra geometry, it allows me a little bit more freedom to sort of sculpt in extra details. And I'm just going to simply, just as before, make sure you have your tool settings on, select your mesh, select the sculpt tool, and you're also going to want to, you can change the symmetry here. We can do Object X, and you'll notice the dot on either side, right? And I'm going to switch to my front view, and then make sure you change the strength. At this point I have it at 0.5. I'm also going to increase the brush size, and I'm probably going to make this like 0.2. And I'm simply going to just sort of sculpt in. And maybe 0.5 might be. Just some details like pectoral information. It's not enough at the moment. Ooh. to really define it. I don't really have enough geometry at the moment to sort of start to define this section. And let's start just by smoothing this out a little bit. I'm going to switch to my side view because I know I lost a lot of depth here. Increase my brush size. And just pull some of that back out. And this is a great time to sort of make the adjustments needed to your mesh. And like on the back here. Okay. Alright, so that's as far as I'm going to go with it. The sculpt tool didn't work as nicely as I wanted it to or expected it to, but it did help sort of even out some of the geometry here in the chest. I will definitely be needing, and even in here I'd prefer this came out a little bit too. But even still, it definitely did help sort of maneuver this geometry a bit. Trying to keep it a little bit as clean as possible, but especially when we get into modeling the head and we combine the mesh together, the neck to the head, also in the lower torso here, we're going to begin adding more geometry running vertically through this mesh on both front and the back side of it. Because as you can tell, we have a lot of geometry in the arms here, and then we don't have as much in the chest and body sections, but that will come shortly. So on that note, that is combining the hands to the wrist or the arm, and the arm into the body, and we're going to have this as a complete watertight mesh here soon. The term watertight comes from, I believe it's 3D printing. It'll be an entirely closed object with all of the verts merged together, as if it were 3D printed. It would, no water, if you were to dip it in water, no water would get into it. Anyway, that's all I've got for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, shoot me a message, and stay tuned for the next one.